Coming up, the toilet repair kit is installed, the toilet is reinstalled and flushed. A journey of home renovation and maintenance. Welcome to Maintaining 18. To install the toilet repair kit, the tank has to be removed. It's straightforward. The challenging part is removing the fill valve. The nut of the fill valve is difficult to remove. Use a tool, squeeze, and watch out, it will snap. With the tank separated, the next challenge was to remove the tank O-ring seal. The seal was tightly affixed and had to be pried away. A screwdriver did not work well. However, a pliers did the trick. It is easier to install the toilet repair kit outside now that the tank has been removed. The installation was fairly simple. Installation of the bolts was first, and the reason for that is if the other parts are installed, it will cause an obstruction when installing the bolts. In retrospect, the O-ring seal was not installed correctly. It should have been flushed with the bottom of the tank. With each flush, the tank of the toilet is cleaned. This is achieved by a hose. The hose has to be cut to size to fit this toilet tank. Attaching the line is easy, it's pushed on. Pushing may have to be accompanied by twisting. There's an indicator as to how far the line must be attached. The overflow tube is attached. There was not much difficulty, and apart from the bolts, no tools were used. The repair kit is assembled. Now it's time to install the toilet. Before doing so, the area has to be disinfected and cleaned. The flange has some old wax. Removing it will not increase or decrease the performance of the new seal. If you are new, welcome. Otherwise, welcome back. Don't be offended when you hear something you already know. The channel gives an account of home renovation and maintenance. Difficult tasks and traps are highlighted. Knowing what to expect and the tools that make maintenance easy gives an advantage. Better to know ahead of time and be more prepared. And that is what subscribing will do. Before reinstalling the tank, the area also has to be cleaned. Next, the floor to bowl seal is installed. This particular model comes with an extension, which is blue. The extension is not necessary since the flange sits above the floor. The kit comes with bolts. These bolts have to be tightened in order to prevent the toilet from shifting or rocking. There's a trick to this. The trick is to retain the nuts which were removed when the toilet was removed. Secure the bolts to the flange with the nuts that came with the kit. Install the seal. Then, once the toilet is installed, those extra nuts, use them to secure the toilet. This way, the toilet will not shift or rock once installed. Before installing the toilet, it's a good idea to ensure that there are no toys or small things stuck in the trap. Installation is much easier without the tank. Nothing special was needed, no tapes to mark where the bolts were, etc. The toilet doesn't have to be installed parallel to the floor for there to be a leak-proof seal. The floor in this case may be slightly uneven. Shims will keep the toilet from rocking. The bolts are secure, they're not going anywhere. Install the nuts to secure the toilet. Now comes the installation of the tank. The seal was not installed correctly, and this process had to be repeated due to a leak. The seal is supposed to be seated all the way to the tank. The bolts come with wing nuts allowing tightening. This has to be done by hand. Thinking out loud, this is one of those cases where the old seal is superior to the new seal. This error would not have been made with the old seal. The wing nut is an improvement of the new design over the old design. Praises. The installation of the water line is next. It's pretty straightforward, apart from being difficult to reach and difficult to see. On additional scrutiny, the toilet rocked from back to front. A shim was installed. Of course, at this point the bolts were already on, so a hammer was used slightly, ever so gently, to drive the shims under the toilet. Very gently, very, very gently. Now for the tests. Primarily that the mechanism works, and secondary if there are any former leaks. After flushing, it was determined that the green float ball, which is to keep the flapper long enough open, allowing enough water to enter the bowl, was requiring adjustment. That is some pretty impressive English. The green float is to be kept closer to the flapper. It is not powerful enough to lift the flapper even when it is submerged in water. A quick note on leaks. It could be some time before the leak is noticed. It could be a day or 2 days after. Lastly, the water level is to be adjusted. Typically a pencil is used to mark the water level, and then the toilet is flushed. Now the valve is adjusted to let either more or less water into the bowl. Here an improvisation, using a piece of paper to mark the level of the water. Gloves are great. There's a labeled lever on the fill valve to adjust the water level. Care was taken to ensure the paper doesn't escape. After all, the drain line was only just cleaned. This maintenance is coming to an end. There's a bit more to be done, caulking and installing the vanity caps over the bolts that are exposed. However, this will be done after maybe a week or so. I want to make sure that there are no leaks or nothing of concern. The tank does appear to look a little bit lean. This can be adjusted by loosening and fastening the bolts as necessary. This wraps up this episode. It was a hard fought week. Thankfully, it has a positive outcome. The day is won.